I live in a modest, well-tended house on the edge of a quiet Philadelphia suburb. The mornings always begin with the gentle hum of routine, a carefully brewed cup of coffee, the rustle of newspapers on the kitchen table, and the familiar sound of the neighbor's dog greeting the day. My name is Samantha, and for as long as I can remember, life has followed a predictable, almost comforting script. I share this haven with my husband, Andrew, a man whose steady presence anchors our shared existence. Outwardly, our life appears impeccably stable, a series of measured moments strung together with practical purpose. Yet, beneath the surface of this orderly life, a persistent whisper has always stirred inside me, an unnameable emptiness that hints at something beyond the well-worn paths of my daily routine. In the early light of dawn, as I stand by the window gazing at the slow awakening of the neighborhood, my thoughts drift to moments I once cherished. There were times when laughter echoed more freely, when spontaneous adventures painted the days with vibrant hues. Now, even the rhythmic ticking of the clock seems to remind me of the passage of time, a reminder that life, though comfortable, has grown predictable. There is a quiet yearning that sometimes catches me unawares, a subtle pull toward a world where every day might be imbued with an unexpected spark of discovery. Andrew, with his calm assurance and thoughtful manner, remains blissfully unaware of the stirring inside me. His days are consumed by familiar tasks, meeting friends, and maintaining a balance that reassures our neighbors and friends alike. Our conversations flow like gentle streams, polite and measured, never venturing into the territories of raw emotion or undiscovered desires. As I move through our shared spaces, the living room bathed in soft afternoon light, the garden with its carefully pruned blooms, I can't help but feel that something essential is missing, something that the steady routine fails to provide. The house, though filled with warmth and memories, has slowly become a symbol of a life that, while secure, leaves little room for the unpredictable. I find myself quietly questioning if I have traded a world of possibility for a life of gentle routine, where every smile, every word is simply a well-rehearsed note in a long, familiar melody. And so, with each sunrise, that inner whisper grows a little louder, hinting at a promise of change, of an awakening that awaits just beyond the horizon of the known. The crisp air of early autumn carried a subtle promise of change as Andrew shared the news that would unsettle the calm rhythm of our everyday life. One evening, as twilight settled over our neighborhood and the streetlights began to glow softly, Andrew's voice broke through the quiet of our living room with unexpected enthusiasm. He spoke of his long-lost friend, Brian, who was returning from a lengthy sojourn in Europe. According to Andrew, Brian's time abroad had left him enriched with stories and experiences, a man transformed by the vibrant cultures and spirited encounters that marked his journey. I listened, half distracted by my own drifting thoughts, yet every word from Andrew resonated deeply within me. I remembered Brian from years past, a man whose cheerful demeanor and effortless charm had once lit up our gatherings. In my recollections, he was a figure who brought warmth and laughter wherever he went, a person who possessed an innate ability to stir curiosity and evoke smiles even on the dullest of days. Andrew's tone conveyed admiration and fondness, and though I tried to match his easy excitement, I couldn't help but feel a subtle stirring within me, a quiet anticipation mingled with a hint of apprehension. That night, as the moon cast a pale glow through our windows, I found myself lying awake, pondering the prospect of Brian's imminent return. My mind raced with memories of shared moments and idle conversations that had once brought unexpected light into my routine. The thought of reconnecting with someone who embodied a sense of carefree joy stirred emotions I hadn't fully acknowledged in years. I wondered how much the man who had traveled far and wide had changed, and whether the spark he had ignited in the past might find a way to flicker once more in the corridors of my everyday life. Andrew, ever the optimist, was looking forward to reuniting with his friend and eagerly anticipated the revival of those spirited connections from his youth. He envisioned evenings filled with animated discussions about far-off lands and adventures, a welcome distraction from the mundane tasks that marked our days. For him, Brian represented a link to a world that had once thrived on spontaneity and open-hearted conversation, a stark contrast to our measured routines. His excitement was contagious, and even as I wrestled with my own complex emotions, I couldn't help but feel that Brian's return might herald an unexpected twist in the fabric of our lives. In the quiet moments that followed Andrew's announcement, I sat by the window watching the interplay of shadows and light on the familiar streets below. The news seemed to suspend time, inviting me to consider the possibility of rediscovering parts of myself that had long lain dormant. Even as a gentle trepidation curled within me, there was a distinct sense that something long awaited was on the horizon, a chance to break free from the confines of predictability and to explore a realm where old memories could merge with new hopes, sparking the promise of experiences that lay just beyond the safe boundaries of what I had always known. The following days unfolded with a subtle transformation that I scarcely noticed at first. While Andrew immersed himself in his usual pursuits, attending meetings, managing household details, and reconnecting with familiar faces, I found moments of solitude that led my mind on unexpected journeys through memories long tucked away. In the quiet hours of the afternoon, when the house fell into a gentle lull and the hum of everyday tasks softened, fragments of past conversations began to resurface. I recalled voices from years gone by, murmuring about the perils of a life too carefully rehearsed, suggesting that overfamiliarity could somehow stifle the vibrancy of true experience. One afternoon, as I sat by the window with a book I scarcely read, the interplay of light and shadow on the leaves outside seemed to echo an inner dialogue. The words of a friend from a long-forgotten summer drifted into my thoughts, cautioning against letting the routine dull the spectrum of living. It wasn't a declaration of rebellion, but rather a quiet observation, a reminder that a life solely defined by predictability might, over time, lose its luster. I began to wonder if I had, in my own way, sacrificed a deeper connection to the moment, settling into a cadence that left little room for the unexpected. The memory of those words kindled a small, yet persistent curiosity within me. I started paying closer attention to the subtle shifts around me, the glint of sunlight on a dew-covered lawn, the gentle laughter of neighbors as they passed by, the fleeting expressions of emotion on the faces of passers-by. Each detail seemed imbued with a latent possibility, as if the everyday world were quietly urging me to awaken to a more vivid experience of life. The recollections mingled with the present, forming a tapestry of hopes and latent desires that I had long buried under the comfort of routine. In these reflective moments, the imminent return of Brian added an intriguing layer to my thoughts. His name, once a beacon of lighthearted energy, now stirred something more profound in the recesses of my mind. A reminder of a time when life was lived with an intensity that went beyond measured words and cautious steps. I found myself silently questioning whether the steady, undemanding nature of my current existence had inadvertently muted the spontaneity of my own inner landscape. As the days passed, I began to sense that this gentle awakening was not merely a passing fancy, but a subtle invitation to re-examine the choices I had made. There was an unspoken allure in the possibility of rediscovering a part of myself that I had forgotten, a self that had once dared to dream, to feel with unabashed clarity. Though the comfort of my familiar world was undeniable, the quiet murmur of the past was growing louder, hinting at opportunities that lay beyond the safe confines of the known. And so, in the midst of my routine, a small but significant shift was taking place, one that would eventually lead me toward a future uncharted and filled with unforeseen promise. One brisk afternoon, I decided to break away from the confines of my routine by visiting a small cafe tucked away in the heart of Philadelphia. The place exuded an inviting charm, with its soft ambient music, gentle murmur of conversations, and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingling with hints of baked pastries. I settled into a quiet corner, intent on savoring a moment of solitude. It was one of those rare days when the world outside seemed to pulse with a quiet vibrancy, a promise of something different waiting to unfold. I had barely taken a sip of my latte when the door chimed and a familiar figure stepped inside. The sound of the bell pulled my gaze toward the entrance, and for an instant, I was certain it was my imagination. But there he was. Brian. I recognized him instantly by his warm smile and the unmistakable ease in his posture. a blend of casual confidence and understated charm that seemed both familiar and refreshingly new. His presence stirred memories of long forgotten laughter and carefree moments, momentarily transporting me to a past where spontaneity was the norm and life brimmed with unexpected delights. Brian's eyes scanned the room, and when they met mine, there was an unspoken acknowledgement, a silent greeting loaded with memories and the promise of rediscovery. He approached the counter to order, his presence brightening the modest space as if he carried his own personal sunbeam. I watched him from my seat, feeling a mixture of surprise and curiosity that defied the calm facade I had carefully maintained. In that fleeting moment, every little detail, the way he adjusted his jacket, his genuine nod at the barista, and the soft chuckle that followed his order, reminded me of a time when the world felt larger, more mysterious, and filled with uncharted possibilities. As fate would have it, our paths converged unexpectedly when I found myself standing near him, reaching for my cup of coffee. Our brief exchange was simple, yet charged with an undercurrent of mutual recognition. He commented lightly on the cafe's artful decor, and I responded with a nod and a smile that felt like a quiet invitation to reminisce about old stories. In that shared moment, the past and present merged seamlessly. I realized that Brian was not merely a character from my memories. He was a living reminder of a time when every encounter carried the potential to change one's perspective. The conversation, though brief and seemingly casual, left an indelible mark on me. As I resumed my seat, the ambiance of the cafe seemed transformed, its warm light now echoing the subtle stirring within me. The unexpected meeting with Brian had disrupted the monotony of my day, planting a seed of possibility that would slowly but inexorably reshape the contours of my inner life. The city's cultural heartbeat was palpable that evening as I ventured into a contemporary art exhibition held in a newly renovated gallery downtown. The venue, bathed in a soft ambient glow, buzzed with quiet conversations and the understated reverence of art enthusiasts. Each piece on display, from bold abstract canvases to delicate, intricate installations, whispered stories of creativity and transformation. I moved slowly from one exhibit to another, feeling as though I were on a journey of rediscovery, a quest to awaken a dormant part of myself that had long been silenced by the familiar rhythms of my daily life. Amid the immersive cascade of colors and textures, I noticed a familiar figure standing by a striking sculpture. It was Brian, whose presence at the exhibition was as unexpected as it was welcome. He seemed completely absorbed by the interplay of light and form, his gaze intense yet reflective, as though he were deciphering a hidden narrative in every curve and shadow. The sight of him stirred a blend of curiosity and reminiscence in me, drawing my attention with the quiet magnetism of shared history. Encouraged by a desire to connect over this unexpected intersection of our worlds, I approached him. Our conversation began organically, centered around the artwork that surrounded us. Brian's insights were thoughtful, his observations laced with a genuine appreciation for the artist's intent. He pointed out the subtle details in a large, mixed-media piece, a barely perceptible layering of textures that, when seen from a certain angle, revealed a hidden depth. I found myself offering my own reflections, describing how the piece evoked memories of forgotten dreams and unspoken possibilities. The discussion flowed effortlessly, punctuated by moments of mutual understanding and shared silence as we both contemplated the layers of meaning within the art. In that gallery space where creativity and introspection coalesced, the conversation with Brian evolved into an exploration of ideas and emotions that I had long set aside. Every word exchanged carried an undercurrent of possibility, suggesting that the art before us was not merely an arrangement of colors and shapes, but a mirror reflecting the subtle shifts in our inner lives. Our dialogue was a delicate dance, each observation leading to another, each silence inviting further thought. The exhibition, in its quiet magnificence, became a catalyst for an internal dialogue that had been waiting for its moment to awaken. Leaving the gallery that evening, I carried with me a renewed sense of wonder. The encounter with Brian, set against the backdrop of such evocative art, left an impression that was both profound and gently stirring. It was as if the exhibition had provided a temporary sanctuary, a space where the complexities of our inner worlds could intersect with the raw, unfiltered expression of human creativity. The experience left me pondering the intricate connections between our shared past and the undiscovered facets of our present. A thought that, like the art itself, would continue to resonate with me long after the gallery lights dimmed. One overcast morning, I set out to complete a small yet significant task on Andrew's behalf, a delivery of important documents to an office located in the heart of Philadelphia's bustling business district. The brisk walk to the towering building provided a brief escape from my familiar domestic world, and for a moment, I allowed myself to relish the anticipation of stepping into an environment so different from my everyday routine. The city streets were alive with a sense of purpose. Commuters hurrying along sidewalks, animated conversations in cafes, and the gentle hum of urban life creating a backdrop that contrasted sharply with the quiet rhythm of my suburban home. Inside the modern office building, the atmosphere was a blend of professionalism and understated urgency. The lobby exuded an air of efficiency. Marble floors polished to a mirror sheen, sleek glass doors, and the soft murmur of voices moving with purpose. I approached the reception desk, documents clutched carefully in my hand, and announced my purpose with a practiced calm that belied the inner tremor of anticipation. The receptionist offered a polite smile and guided me toward the elevator, where I felt a subtle mix of nerves and curiosity ripple beneath my composed exterior. As the elevator doors slid open on the designated floor, I was immediately immersed in a maze of busy workspaces and hushed telephone conversations. I made my way down a corridor lined with offices, each door a portal into its own world of deadlines and decisions. Just as I reached the area marked for document deliveries, a familiar figure caught my eye. There, amidst the organized chaos of a well-coordinated department, stood Brian. He was engaged in a quiet conversation with a colleague near a glass partition, his attentive expression and thoughtful gestures marking him as someone deeply absorbed in his work. For a moment, time seemed to slow as I watched him. The efficient rhythm of the office faded into the background, replaced by a vivid recollection of previous encounters. My heart beat a touch faster as I carefully navigated the corridor, my steps measured and deliberate. Brian's presence stirred a series of reflections, memories of spontaneous exchanges and insightful discussions that had gradually awakened something dormant within me. In that setting of focused activity and corporate order, his appearance was a gentle reminder of the world beyond routine, a world where genuine connections could flourish even in the most unexpected places. I paused near a water cooler, ostensibly to catch my breath, but truly to observe him from a discreet distance. My thoughts wandered to how our interactions had subtly evolved. From brief, chance encounters to more frequent, deliberate moments that now wove themselves into the tapestry of my day. The experience was neither overtly dramatic nor overtly charged. It was a quiet, undeniable shift. The routine errand had unexpectedly become a window into an inner life stirring with the promise of something new. As I continued to deliver the documents, I carried with me the lingering impression of that encounter, the silent promise of change echoing in the corridors of both the office and my heart. The soft glow of city lights beckoned me out of the day's routine as I stepped into a chic, urban eatery known for its welcoming ambiance and eclectic crowd. Tonight, the restaurant buzzed with the lively chatter of familiar friends and new acquaintances, each table hosting a mosaic of stories and laughter. Andrew had organized this casual gathering, a chance to reconnect with old friends and share lighthearted moments over a delicious meal. I found myself seated at a long table set near a window, where the gentle illumination from vintage lamps blended with the cityscape beyond. As conversations swirled around me, the air punctuated by the clink of cutlery and the soft hum of background music, I surveyed the room. Faces lit up with genuine smiles and animated discussions unfolded in quiet corners. Amid the convivial atmosphere, I noticed Brian moving effortlessly among the guests, greeting each with a warmth that made his presence impossible to ignore. His arrival was subtle, yet unmistakable. He leaned casually against a table in the center of the room, engaging in a conversation that radiated both humor and intelligence. The unexpected sight of him sparked a quiet curiosity, and I felt drawn to his ease and sincerity. I watched as he exchanged light banter with a small group, his laughter mingling naturally with the ambient sounds of the restaurant. It was as if every gesture and glance was infused with a certain vitality, a reminder that even amidst carefully planned gatherings, life holds moments of unanticipated connection. The gentle cadence of our interactions that evening was unforced and genuine. Each word was measured, conveying thoughtfulness rather than haste. Andrew, ever attentive, greeted guests with his usual courteous charm, yet it was Brian's presence that stirred a reflective excitement within me. At one point during the meal, while the conversation shifted to memories of shared experiences and humorous anecdotes, our eyes met across the table. In that silent exchange, there was an unspoken acknowledgement, a moment where familiarity intersected with a newfound understanding. Brian approached the table, and his easy smile prompted a brief exchange of greetings that felt both natural and significant. His remarks about a recent art exhibit or a quirky encounter on the city streets resonated with a freshness that was hard to pinpoint but impossible to ignore. As the evening unfolded, the dinner evolved into a series of gentle revelations. Over the course of the meal, I found myself listening intently to a mix of lighthearted stories and deeper reflections, all conveyed in voices that were earnest and unpretentious. Each conversation, every shared laugh seemed to stitch together the fabric of an experience that was as much about rediscovering old bonds as it was about embracing new perspectives. The restaurant, with its blend of subtle elegance and relaxed vibrancy, became the backdrop for a night that promised more than just culinary delights. It offered a glimpse into possibilities that stretched quietly into the future. When the gathering finally drew to a close, I left with a lingering sense of warmth and anticipation. The memory of friendly exchanges and unexpected connections etched firmly in my mind. That evening, marked by both the comfort of familiar faces and the invigorating presence of Brian, had subtly shifted the contours of my inner world, inviting me to consider that perhaps the most meaningful journeys begin with a single, unassuming moment of connection. After a delightful evening filled with gentle exchanges and shared smiles among friends, the night gradually eased into a softer cadence. The urban eatery's vibrant chatter had subsided into a calm murmur as guests began to disperse. I found myself drawn to the restaurant's quiet veranda, a secluded haven away from the residual buzz of laughter and conversation. Here, under the soft glow of dimmed streetlights and the delicate illumination of table lamps, the world seemed to pause for a moment. Brian had lingered by the open door, as if reluctant to let the night's magic slip away. Our eyes met in the calm of that twilight, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. The air carried a subtle chill, and yet an inner warmth began to spread as we shared that quiet space. Our conversation had ebbed into a reflective silence, a space where words seemed redundant and every glance said more than any declaration could. With a measured, almost tender deliberation, Brian moved a fraction closer. The distance between us shrank to a point where the unspoken weight of our past encounters and the promise of something new intertwined. His hand reached out, fingers brushing lightly against mine, an innocuous yet profound touch that sent a quiet ripple through my heart. In that brief, charged instant, all the subtle signals, the shared glances, the gentle smiles, and the echoes of previous conversations merged into a single unspoken invitation. Time appeared to slow as our faces turned toward one another. There was no fanfare in the moment, no need for dramatic gestures or overt words. Instead, there was a soft, decisive kiss, a brief contact of lips that encapsulated every hesitant hope and quiet longing I had felt in the days prior. The kiss was gentle, almost transient, yet it carried with it a weight of meaning that resonated deeply. It was as if that small, measured act had unlocked a door within me, a realization that life might offer moments of genuine connection, even when one dares to step away from the familiar. As we slowly parted, our eyes lingered together a moment longer, each silently affirming that this encounter was a turning point. No grand declarations were made. The simplicity of the kiss itself said enough. It was a reminder that sometimes A single heartfelt gesture can signal the beginning of a new chapter, a quiet challenge to the routine that had long governed my life. Stepping back into the gentle embrace of the night, I carried with me the memory of that delicate moment. A subtle yet profound affirmation that the heart, when awakened, is capable of embracing the unexpected. The kiss remained with me, a soft imprint of possibility, urging me forward into the uncharted paths that lay ahead. The morning light arrived softly, filtering through the sheer curtains and stirring a quiet, introspective calm within me. Waking from a night that had altered the familiar rhythm of my life, I found myself enveloped in a haze of conflicting thoughts. The previous evening's brief, decisive kiss with Brian lingered in my mind like an echo, a gentle yet undeniable signal that the contours of my existence were shifting. In the early hours, as the world outside slowly awakened, I sat by the window with a steaming cup of tea, allowing the silence to envelop me. The stillness of the morning was a stark contrast to the vibrant energy of the city, offering a private space for introspection and honest self-conversation. My thoughts meandered through the events of the past few days, a tapestry woven from moments of routine and flashes of unexpected connection. Each encounter with Brian had left an imprint, stirring emotions that had long lain dormant beneath the surface of everyday predictability. I began to question the nature of my desires and the subtle yearning for something beyond the comfortable certainty of my married life. The familiarity of home, with its quiet corners and well-practiced routines, now felt simultaneously secure and confining. I wondered if I had, in my quest for stability, allowed the possibility of a more vivid, if uncertain existence to fade away. Throughout the day, as I went about my usual tasks, a persistent inner dialogue unfolded. Every familiar scene, the sunlit kitchen where Andrew prepared his morning coffee, the neatly arranged garden outside, seemed imbued with a new significance. I realized that my inner world was expanding, quietly pushing against the boundaries of a life that had once felt entirely sufficient. There was a growing awareness of the delicate balance between safety and the allure of the unknown. With each thought, the decision that now beckoned me grew clearer. To embrace this emerging desire for change and to acknowledge the truth that had been whispered to me through each unexpected encounter. The day passed in a blend of routine and reflection, punctuated by moments where memories of the past mingled with visions of an uncertain future. I recalled conversations with dear friends, the laughter and the shared confidences, and felt a bittersweet longing for the times when I was unafraid to explore the full spectrum of my emotions. That inner longing, once a faint murmur, now resonated powerfully, suggesting that the time had come for a change, a decisive step toward a life where my heart's quiet desires could no longer be confined by the safe borders of a predictable existence. By dusk, as the sky turned a soft shade of lavender and the day's reflections settled within me, I recognized that the events of recent days were more than fleeting moments. They were a call to re-examine my life, to weigh the comfort of the known against the possibility of embracing the uncharted. With a mixture of trepidation and resolve, I sensed that the journey toward self-discovery had truly begun. Late that evening, still enveloped in the introspective glow of a day transformed by quiet revelations, I found myself seeking refuge in a small, warmly lit restaurant that held memories of countless heartfelt conversations. It was there that I arranged to meet Karen, my oldest and most trusted friend, a woman whose insight had always guided me through life's uncertain twists. The gentle hum of soft music and the low murmur of fellow diners provided a comforting backdrop as I settled into a secluded booth in the corner. Karen arrived with the same calm assurance that had defined our friendship over the years. Her eyes, thoughtful and kind, conveyed an immediate understanding even before words were exchanged. As we greeted one another with the warmth of shared history, I could sense that tonight's conversation was destined to be different, more layered and profound than our usual exchanges. With our drinks placed on the table, we allowed a few moments of silence to set the stage, each of us silently acknowledging that the night was as much about reconnecting with our inner selves as it was about catching up on life. I began hesitantly, recounting the quiet stirrings that had awakened within me over the past days. I spoke of familiar routines that had started to feel like well-worn patterns, of the unexpected encounters that had nudged me toward introspection, and of the small yet significant moments that had shifted the balance of my everyday existence. Karen listened intently, her gaze unwavering and filled with empathy. Every so often, she interjected with a gentle question, a subtle prompt that encouraged me to explore my feelings with greater clarity. I recalled the serendipitous meetings, the unexpected glances, and the delicate gesture that had set my heart adrift from its accustomed course. As the conversation deepened, Karen's questions touched upon aspects of my life I had long kept confined within the quiet chambers of my heart. She asked about the meaning behind the recurring memories, the sense of yearning that now accompanied even the most ordinary of moments, and whether I had ever allowed myself the freedom to dream beyond the familiar. Her words were not accusatory or judgmental. Rather, they carried the weight of genuine concern and a shared desire to see me embrace the full spectrum of my emotions. In response, I found myself articulating fears and hopes that I had buried under years of routine, a longing for authenticity that extended beyond the safety of predictable days. By the time we reached the dessert course, our conversation had taken on the quality of an unburdening confession, a cleansing dialogue that gently peeled away layers of doubt and uncertainty. Karen's quiet affirmations and reflective insights gave me the courage to acknowledge that I had indeed crossed an invisible line in search of something more meaningful. In her soothing presence, I recognized that change, though often daunting, was a natural progression of life. Our words, filled with both reminiscence and cautious optimism, transformed the quiet restaurant into a sanctuary where vulnerability was met with compassion. As we eventually parted ways that night, I carried with me not only the warmth of our shared confidences, but also a renewed sense of purpose. Karen's steadfast friendship had reminded me that every step toward rediscovering myself was a step toward a future where each day held the promise of genuine, unguarded connection. The final hours of that fateful day arrived with a quiet inevitability, as if every moment had been gently leading me toward this defining juncture. The home I had known, its familiar rooms and well-worn routines, now felt like a tapestry woven from both cherished memories and the slow erosion of something vital. With each step through the corridors, I could almost hear the echo of past laughter and shared confidences. Yet over time, those echoes had become intertwined with an unyielding awareness. The trust and certainty I once felt had been irrevocably altered. In the early evening light, I sat alone in the silent comfort of our living room. The soft hum of the city beyond the windows merged with the steady rhythm of my own heartbeat, and I realized that my inner life was brimming with a newfound clarity. The day's introspection had left me with a profound understanding. Every cherished memory, every hidden desire had contributed to the emergence of a self that was no longer content with the predictable. It was as if I had been living in a carefully constructed illusion of stability, and now the layers of routine had been stripped away, revealing a deeper, truer longing for change. I remembered the gentle guidance of Karen's words, which had encouraged me to honor my feelings and to embrace vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. Each unexpected encounter, from the city cafe to the quiet moments shared in galleries and office corridors, had served as a reminder that life's richness was found in its surprises and the willingness to step beyond comfort. The cumulative effect of these experiences filled me with both a sense of melancholy and the excitement of possibility, a bittersweet mix that whispered of liberation and reinvention. Standing at the threshold of the front door, I gathered the resolve to step into an uncertain future. I quietly collected a few personal belongings, each item a silent testament to the life I had lived, and paused for a long moment to take in the space one last time. There was a profound sadness in the act of leaving, but it was interlaced with the promise of renewal and personal discovery. I knew that the decision to leave behind the familiar was not merely an act of escape, but a conscious, heartfelt embrace of a future where I could finally pursue a deeper understanding of who I was and who I wished to become. As I stepped out into the cool embrace of the twilight, the city around me shimmered with the potential of untold stories and unseen landscapes. With each deliberate step away from the past, I carried not only the weight of what was left behind, but also the lightness of a spirit awakened to its own possibility. In that transformative moment, I felt both the quiet sorrow of a chapter closing and the undeniable thrill of a new beginning. A journey into a future uncharted, filled with opportunities for genuine self discovery and the promise of a life lived fully on my own terms.